realtor brought me to Wellington, and I was looking for a new place to build a model home. And I wanted to look for a community that had pretty strict controls, homeowners associations, deed restrictions, something that I knew would be maintained over the years. And I was looking for schools because we knew we would be bringing our children up in this community, in a community. And we wanted it, obviously, to have good schools, good parks.
Mm-hmm.
Recreation was very important because we had hoped for boys to get out there and play with, and a lake to play on, and tennis and golf, and the multi-faction recreation facilities. And based on the map that at that time Alcoa and Breakwater Housing had published of the future community, it looked pretty exciting. And I committed to purchasing a lot and began building my first model home. And that was well before we actually moved up here, probably a year before we moved up. And then a year after that, we had our first boy, Matthew. And we're living here at that time and enjoyed building our personal home here after that in Pinewood East. Denise and I literally built the walls, built the roof, did everything except for the plumbing and electric. And we found out halfway through that job she was pregnant with Brad. So Matthew and Brad grew up in Wellington, and it turned out to be the absolutely perfect neighborhood for bringing up kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was a carpenter by trade, came down from Atlanta in the late 1980s, worked in the Fort Lauderdale area, Coral Springs area, and left the Coral Springs area to come here.
Mm-hmm.
G and Jensen were the primary engineers for the project for Alcoa and Breakwater. And they had just done an astounding job in describing what ultimately could be the ideal community. And I think I saw something in their drawings and in their plans that really attracted me. I met Gary Stribling, and he said, I want to have 10 trees for every house that's built by the time this community is done. And I think he certainly achieved that easily, if even beat it.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows in the landscaping throughout. In fact, just today, driving through Wellington, the landscaping is so gorgeous. And the whole community shines compared to most others. After, I think it was 5 years in, and we were building, it was discovered that I was the oldest builder in Wellington, because the very, very earliest ones had left, and I was still standing. And we went through 2 recessions, the first of which chased a few out, and I managed to stand through it. And I could stand up and say, okay, I'm the oldest builder here. And I garnered so many friends over the years, but they were clients of my company and built their homes or remodeled their homes or built additions, and they became friends and patriots in the construction of the community, not just of their home,
mm-hmm.
but we were out there building parks, and we were out there doing many things that led to the improvement year after year after year of Wellington. And for example, Darrell Bowen, very early on, would pass a hat, literally pass a hat, to collect money, to get enough money to have fireworks for the 4th of July. And, you know, that's the community coming together to enjoy each other and the parks and the events, or Sharon Edelman establishing the parade. That was a community event to bring everyone together to enjoy the holidays and kick off that season. But it did a good job, too. The people used to just come, everyone used to come to the parade at Christmas. And Sharon started that. But the progression from Alcoa and Breakwater to Gould was a little bit of a concern, because you went through more of a small organization to suddenly Gould is, wow. They bought the entire parcel that is now Palm Beach Bowling Country Club. We were a little bit concerned, or at least I was, that we might lose that neighborhood touch, that friend and neighbor joining together. But actually, since their fence went up, literally and figuratively, it's pretty well been segregated. When I first came up here, I didn't know what to get involved in. And I wanted to market myself and my company and network. Well, I went to the JCs in Royal Palm Beach, and Dave Leland and Kimberly Leland were there, and I started out with the JCs, and then I think Dennis Witkowski and Mike Abadi knocked on my office door one day and said, "Mark, we want you to join the Palms West Chamber of Commerce." So I did that, got very involved with the chamber, again for the networking primarily, but again we make more and more friends through those interactions. And through the years, I can remember, I don't know, 6 or 8 different offices I held with the Chamber of Commerce, ultimately being president. Wanda Smith handed me a pack of hot dogs at the inauguration when she left office and I came in office, because we had an incident at the parade during her administration, and she handed me a pack of hot dogs when I became president of the Chamber of Commerce. Of course, I was there when we brought in the old Bay Savings Bank building from Forest Hill Boulevard and Congress, I think it was. We literally brought it down here and put it on the park in Royal Palm and joined them together. It had to be done at night because they were an oversized load and had to raise the lines and everything. But so I went through that during my administration, and went from the Chamber of Commerce, and because of the Chamber and the interaction of the Chamber of Commerce in the city, I've got an inkling of who are the decision makers for the future of the community. And it was a little bit the Chamber of Commerce, but certainly more so at that time, Acme Improvement District and the board of Acme Improvement, Bink Listen, and oh gosh, well, Kathy Foster and so many of the people that were making the early decisions appeared to be quality people. and not what I would classify as politicians. And I would go to their meetings every Thursday night and just sit in the back of the room and listen to their communication and their debate about the various issues. And I decided that it may be necessary to get involved, not at the council level, but perhaps in a committee. So I went through 4 or 5 different committees within Acme Improvement District, and then ultimately wound up, a lot of people came to me and said, "Mark, you've got to run for council. You've got to run for council." So eventually I did. It's not something that I was attracted to, but it was a means whereby I could be involved in decision making.
Did you have fun?
No, I can't say it was fun, no. It involved 40 hours a week, at least, between meetings and reading. I don't know if you ever saw the weekly meeting packet. It's this big. And with so many agenda items and trying to study, read, formulate a decision, perhaps make phone calls to talk to people about the various questions, it was a tough job. And I think I was making like $2 an hour. But it was for the good of the community, it really was. And I no longer wish to be in the political arena in any form or fashion, but I don't mind being in the decision-making arena. I'm very pleased every time I come here. Wellington as a community has matured well beyond anything I could have even envisioned. It's a beautiful place. It really is. It has all the amenities anyone could want for raising a family. And now with the horse community, the equestrian community has evolved into something just unbelievable. None of us would have ever projected that it would become that. Bill Ilvasacker and Gould certainly must have seen it coming, because it was such a huge investment for their corporation. But the equestrian community, I think, has added to the amenities of the community, and certainly the ability for us to go watch a polo game or watch the hunter jumpers. And it's like having a glass of champagne on a Sunday morning, or mimosa on a Sunday morning while watching the equestrian events. I wouldn't have seen myself doing that when I first came here. So that type of equestrian jewel, if you will, has developed over the time. But when I come back, I see trees, and I see bushes, and I see lakes and boats and children and kids playing on soccer fields and kids playing football and baseball, and parks just full of people and special events. The planning of day-to-day planning is difficult, but people like yourself and many others have found a way to put their time in and enjoy it for the good of the community. I always did, and I hope everyone else has. If you recall the entry walls as you come in to the community, and they're curved, and they have an arch, and they had fountains, and the logo changed over the years, but originally I built those walls. I built the walls that say Wellington. And, that's just icing on the cake. It really is. It was a construction job at the time, but it's something to take pride in. And over the years, I think I built over 350 homes total, including townhouse and zero-lot line communities, hidden landings, hidden pines, Bedford Mews, and then single-family homes. The very first home in the Aero Club. In fact, I was involved with the construction of the landing strip. We were researching the type of material to use to build up the landing strip so it would be durable enough for landing planes and what was the best product. So the first home in Aero Club, John Niesman was the accountant for Gould, and he decided to go ahead and purchase that. So we built it semi-custom for him because we were halfway through it when he decided. But milestone events like that stick out to me. I can drive by that home today, be very proud of it. Or I can drive by your home and say, I worked on that house, and be proud of what we did. Or drive by a park, Tiger Shark Cove. Debbie and I went out there and helped build Tiger Shark Cove Park because we could use saws and routers and build wood things, and we spent a couple weekends doing that. But we can drive by there today and be very proud of it. I think we can do that for the whole community.
I believe the most important thing to happen to Wellington was incorporation. It actually took 5 years to complete the process, and it began one afternoon when Ken Adams invited me to lunch. He simply said, Mark, can you incorporate Wellington? And I told Ken, well, I don't know what to do, but I'll figure it out. And I took out an ad in the local paper, invited all the residents to meet me at the Chamber of Commerce building, which was the old Bay Savings Bank building. We had moved to the park north of Wellington, and about 20 or 25 people showed up, and we talked for an hour or so, and then rescheduled another meeting in a month, and I did the same thing, invited all the residents to come, express their opinions, and ask their questions. And you know what? After 5 years, I never heard one objection that could not be countered with an advantage for the village of Wellington. Ultimately, it really helped us a lot. Another item I'd like to point out is the actual dirt that we're sitting on to record this video. We used to play polo on this dirt. Walt and Shirley Kuhn originally supplied a horse for me, actually wound up selling me 2 horses, one of which came from Clark Etherington. But Gary Stribling and David Andrews would come out with the Kuhn boys and Walt Kuhn and a few other people would come out and just play pickup polo on the very field that the village hall now stands. It was the Hubcap Open. Whoever won the match that day got to keep the trophy, which was a hubcap. I thought you would enjoy that. When I originally came to Wellington the very first time, Gary Stribling was the captain of the ship, and Dennis Quinlan was head of construction and operations, and David Andrews was in charge of sales. So we had a good time back in those old days, and I've enjoyed being here for many, many years.